We had it planned that someday during the summer I would get to go out and ride horses with her, and we ended up wanting to do it on the 4th of July. We were gonna do fireworks, have hot dogs and marshmallows, just make it an entire day.
That morning, I remember riding my horse before they got there. I remember them getting there and working with the horses a little bit. And then I remember waking up in the hospital that night at like 11 o'clock. I had been fighting my horse all the way up the hill because I didn't want him to take off with the rest of them. He just gets excited. I didn't want an accident. I got up to the edge of the pasture, and the edge of the pasture is right next to the driveway. My mom was pulling out to go get some more gas for the lawnmower or something.
I saw that horse come up on its hind legs and dump that girl off.
The force of him just rearing himself all the way up took him back down on top of me. The saddle horn, the part that sticks up in front of you, was what got me in the leg.
And I saw his legs in the air, which tells me he's rolling on her. And then the horse stood up and Rachel screamed.
Horses are very balanced animals. They don't come off over 4 feet very often, and it's a very big deal when they do. So he's thrashing around. When he goes to get up, the pressure from it, without even realizing it, is what ripped my leg open.
I saw Austin on the other side of the fence. I watched him mouth, "She's really bloody." And I watched that kid go under our fence and go over to her.
She was laying there on the ground, and her left leg was at this really weird angle. Like, it didn't look natural, and then she was like rolling back and forth, but her left leg wasn't moving the entire time. And there was a lot of blood when I first saw it, so I wasn't able to really make out a shape of anything. I just remember seeing the blood flowing down from her leg and onto the ground, and I remember seeing the puddle on the ground underneath her leg. I just put the towel on it and put my shirt to the side, and I started talking to her. I was like, she can't go to sleep. She cannot close her eyes.
Him talking to me and keeping his eyes on me like that minimized the shock that I went through that day.
You know, that's hard to watch when your child is on the ground and there's massive amounts of blood from this wreck.
Well, thank God he was there. Because had he not put the pressure on her leg, with the amount of blood that she lost, if he hadn't done what he did, I mean, no one really seems to want to say this, she would have died. Rachel would have died. She would have died there in that pasture. And nothing that any of us would have done would have made any difference.
The ambulance picked me up at my house, and they took me to Winterset, which is about a 10-minute drive, and they loaded me up at the hospital in Winterset and flew me up to Des Moines.
And it was really easy to tell how badly injured she was. She was white as a sheet. Her heart rate was twice what it needed to be. She was semi-conscious, and there was a lot of blood there in the ambulance.
The next day, they told me I had severed my artery, my femoral artery, almost completely. I had a mild concussion, and they had to take a vein out of my other leg to patch up the artery that had been all worked on. I honestly believe that Austin saved my life.
I have everything that I could ever need to help take care of a very gravely injured child. Austin had none of those things. I have years and years of training. He had none of those things. And yet, he didn't hesitate. There's no question in my mind that he's a hero, and there's no question in my mind that he saved her life. Not at all. Not 1 second.
In that minute, Rachel needed somebody down there with her to minimize her shock, to be with her, to put some pressure on that wound and stop that bleeding. And we are so grateful that he did that for her without even thinking. It was a reflex for him, and we're so grateful to that kid.